7 minutes after 8 o'clock. Simulcast live on Channel 40 TBC on Cable's Ultra TV network. Also on the WINNFM website, WINNmediaSKN.com. This is Island TV. We're also streaming to YouTube, Twitch, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and of course Facebook. And I got my boy, my man.
Well, you say AZ.
AZ.
Yes. So it's
and our girl Chevrich just joined us.
She just joined us. So while she gets settled in, I just want to wish everyone a wonderful Wednesday morning here in the beautiful Thursday morning. Yes. Oh my gosh. So many things are happening. The week is going very quickly. Yes, a blessed Thursday morning. And here we have some rainfall in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the beautiful Twin Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And there is a flood warning out. And here on the WINNFM page, I'm reading a story by Ilana Weeks. It says that several ports across the Caribbean, including St. Kitts and Nevis, have discontinued operations due to adverse weather conditions. And it says for the past days, both operators and ferry services in the Federation have been forced to make tough decisions to cancel or decrease the number of trips due to rough sea. We understand, too, that based on NEMA, and I'm going away from the article, but I know the article mentions it as well. So further down in the article, it says, meanwhile, the Antigua and Barbuda Met Services and the National Emergency Management Agency, St. Kitts, issue a flash flood watch for St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, and a flood watch is also extended for low-lying areas and Anguilla and the British Virgin Islands at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, February 7th, until 8 p.m. on Thursday, February 8th, 2024. So between 8 and 8, yesterday starting 8 p.m., and last evening 8 p.m. and today 8 p.m. We are on the flood watch. So the rain is expected to continue until this evening. So persons, please drive safely, get to work safely, try to exercise caution, especially in the traffic. I know persons might be late, people might be a little, taking the chances, not a chance that you want to take this morning to race. All speed, because the roads aren't in the best conditions given the rainfall for
and
driving.
Sometimes it looks like it's just falling sort of late, but it's falling. If you look at the mountain, it keeps falling in the mountain. And I've learned since a kid that once you have steady rainfall in the mountain area, that's when you get the floods there. Because it just builds up, the soil becomes saturated, and then the guts release. So we have to still keep that in mind,
Yes, we really have to. And I just want to, again, encourage persons to exercise caution, extra caution as you go through the day. Make sure that, your homes are safe in terms of there might be areas where, you have a little leak. Make sure that everything is okay. And so I want to wish everyone well as it relates to, the preparations and making sure that they're safe, not only on the road, but making sure they're safe at home as well. So this is, it's February.
Yes, the love month.
Yes, and in addition to that, we could talk about, some of the activities that WINNFM would have starting next. Well, it's continuing. It's about Love Week on the 12th. We are going to have several prizes to be given out. We're going to make sure that there are activities. We encourage you to visit the WINNFM page. If you visit the WINNFM page, you'll be able to see clearly what are the prizes that you can win. In fact, one of the prizes is, I think, a 2-night stay.
Yes.
Or a night stay for two. Yes, at the I want to say the Four Seasons.
Four Seasons.
Yes, I want to say Four Seasons. So those persons out there,
fabulous.
if you're interested and you want to be a part of the Love Week, visit the WINNFM page and you'll be able to get the information to ensure that everything is sorted out. In addition to that, it's also persons are making preparations for the sports, and it has been something that has been in circulation. A lot of persons are talking about the sports and the preparation for the sports. We were told, and I heard an interview with the Honorable Minister, the Honorable Samuel Duggins here from WINNFM earlier today, this morning, during the newscast, indicating that the facilities at that's the Kim Collins Stadium, the facilities due to maintenance would not be used for the upcoming inter-school championships. In fact, persons he has highlighted, and it is an open secret now, that the inter-school championships are to be held in Nevis, and he has indicated that preparations are being made for Nevis. In fact, even that announcement has been given with several criticisms. We've heard a number of persons on the social media, popular persons in sports, criticizing the decision that, not really criticizing the decision, but the fact that notice of such, the time in which the announcement was made and so forth, were perhaps not in the best time to get a meet like that. You understand that inter-school is a big meet. Persons are going to need to prepare. Giving notice about that, it really puts a lot of pressure on those persons involved in making sure that everything happens.
I wanna bring some light to some of the person who raised it with me. Some of the concerns they raised was, one, when you consider that I think it's over 500 students from St. Kitts that would have to be accommodated in Charlestown somewhere. And whereas the other way around, logistically, it's a lot easier because it's only about, let's say 100 and something that come over from Nevis. So first, you have the obvious, if this is true,
yes,
we have the obvious problem of finding of
accommodations.
Accommodation, feeding them, their comfort. And then another thing that was mentioned to me was that the Gishad Stadium has a wind shear problem. Because meaning because of the where it is.
Yes.
It's very windy. And then that would apparently that would also affect the performances, plus or minus, right? And so those were some of the concerns that were
and I know
raised.
a lot of persons have been making noise, and persons are not. I don't think persons are really, the issue is maintenance, in the sense that I don't think persons are the issue that the fact that the stadium needs to be maintained. Of course, when we have facilities such as these, of course, maintenance is needed. Maintenance, you always need to maintain buildings, you always need to maintain infrastructure. So I don't think the main issue here is
timing is the issue.
Is the timing. So you beat me to it. Timing is the issue. Of course, timing is the issue, because when we look at it, I interviewed the Honorable Minister Samuel Duggins here at WINNFM. We spoke about the cricket, the World Cup cricket, and again, it was an issue where he said that St. Kitts was not a part of the games we're going to get. I think he said the test matches, but the main matches we're not going to get because of maintenance of the facilities, again, not being up to standard. And so it seems like a pattern where it is that the issue reoccurring is one of maintenance and lack of maintenance, and not just the maintenance, but ensuring that plans are in place ahead of time to ensure that maintenance, the proper maintenance, is done at the time. Because when we look at the inter-school, many of us know that the inter-school is around this time, and it seems as though announcements such as this should have been made prior. If it is that you understand that the stadium is not going to be ready for inter-school, which is something that's annual, it's not something that goes without planning and expectation. We know that it's around this time, and so if it is that you were seeing that it's not going to be completed in time, then the proper notice should have been given ahead of time to say, okay, then guys, let's ensure that we maintain the standard. Let's ensure that we put all the measures in place ahead of time to ensure that the sporting is done at the same level that we expect. And of course, I don't think the issue is one that we're going to Nevis. In fact, the games have been held here in St. Kitts numerous times, all the time. You understand? So I don't think the issue is one of going over to Nevis. In fact, going over to Nevis would create another experience for them. But again, it's the timing.
Might not be a good experience, though.
For the first time because of the lack of timing.
And because of the logistical problems, you know.
That is what I'm saying.
Toilets. I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to block out Four Seasons rooms? I don't think that's going to be practical, especially at this time of year. There are no other hotels with rooms anywhere approaching the amount of rooms that Four Seasons has in Nevis. So I don't know.
Sheer volume for travel and the boats and stuff too.
That too, yeah.
You know what? I mean, a part of me, I understand all that, but a part of me is still sort of, maybe I like. It's like confusion. I don't know what.
You like confusion?
No, it's exciting to me. It's like, oh, finally something different. And, you know, even as you said, they might enjoy it. And it kind of shows us that, well, hey, what if something does happen in St. Kitts where certain facilities are unavailable? What if we have a natural disaster? What if we need to move a mass amount of the residents from St. Kitts to Nevis? How do we think about that?
Yeah.
How does it happen?
I mean, you're putting a very silver lining on it. So, but what I'm
imagining.
But in the fact that you have to equate it to a natural disaster, in my mind, makes it seem as though we are facing a natural disaster at this point in time.
I now realize I've gamed out scenarios where I remember. Okay, when I started drawings for the new school, right? And I saw a plan for, I think I mentioned this last week, saw a plan for another 400-meter track. And I was saying, why are they going to have another 400-meter track so close to the Kim Collins Stadium? But I now realize, obviously it's not going to be, it's probably, I don't know if they're doing one up there, but I now realize that we do need a second one so that, because, for example, if one is on the maintenance, you can use the other one,
Yes.
So that's something that has to be done. That's something
but
that has to be
maintenance
considered.
is something that we really need to look at and security.
Exactly.
Because even some of these, what they call in community centers, they're not utilizing part because security wasn't there, so they get vandalized, they're not maintained, and then they end up being these lot of eyesores, and you're just putting down buildings. And to me, every structure that goes down, there must be a plan for some sort of economic activity that would allow it to maintain itself. So whether it is that on the ground floor you rent out stalls, or you allow people to something so that it generates some sort of income, and then that can go into maintaining the facility as well. So we need to start thinking about these things and economics. We don't think about money, but we need to, because that's one with major Achilles heel.
Yeah, especially understanding the facilities that we have. And I think too, what I think the minister should do, and the Ministry of Sports, especially if infrastructure is an issue, because it seems to be a constant issue. We see it with the World Cup cricket. St. Kitts losing out on the opportunity to be a part of the games. When I say the games, we get the test matches, but persons who are cricket fans, when you talk to them, they're saying the test matches ain't the same as being a part of the actual playing of the games, the games. And, the Leeward Islands franchise had been held and based in St. Kitts for over 5 years. It was recently relocated in Antigua. So all of a sudden with these changes, a lot of persons are sports fanatics out there. I myself may not be able to track the sports as much as some persons, but you see the comments, you hear the concerns, and persons come oftentimes expressing those concerns. They come to persons like myself, they come to persons who have access to the airwaves, and you would be surprised how many persons are unsatisfied, especially when it comes to the handling of sports and the handling of sports currently in St. Kitts and Nevis. I am told that schools had been asking the normal schools that would have used the Kim Collins Stadium, had been asking what is going to happen, but no response. And so they had to make preparations on their own. That is the information that I would have received from persons who, you know. And so it makes you wonder whether or not there is proper planning. And that is what I think the concern is. Not that there's, we're going to Nevis, not that there is infrastructure that needs to be maintained.
Understand.
But the proper planning.
Yeah.
Inter-school is an annual thing. We saw, I don't want to call any names, but there was a status circulated not too long ago where you saw an individual who's involved in sports, a popular individual, indicating that this concern had been raised a year ago. And he dared to say that perhaps he could use the same messages and statuses and it would apply to a year after today. Just suggesting that there is no, he doesn't seem to think that there would be a change in circumstance. And so, again, it's not a situation that for most people, I don't think the situation is actually going to Nevis. I think a lot of persons, if we were planned properly, given more notice and attention, I think people have gravitated and wanted to be a part of this experience. Because if it is that this is the first time that Nevis is going to hold the games, then we should have had the proper time to really celebrate, the proper time to plan, the proper time for it to sink in, to sensitize persons. And of course, I am hoping that the games, the sporting games in Nevis, it goes really well. But one has to look at the pressure now that persons behind the scenes will be placed in, because we know that in order for it to be successful, especially the short notice, it means that the persons behind the scene would be under a lot of pressure.
Okay, well, moving on, we don't want it to seem like
we lamenting.
Well, also, I just realized the constituency and Azard's other hat. So.
What other hat is that?
Your other hat.
I am a concerned citizen. I thought I am a host here that expressed the concerns that many persons are having. And in fact, there was a story done by WINNFM on this whole thing that was here this morning. And in fact, there are a number of persons talking about it. So, yes, there might be other hats that I wear, yes. But at the end of the day, I can't just forget and ignore what persons are saying out there, because when persons talk on different issues, whether or not it is something where, constituencies or political landscapes, I speak on it. So I cannot be afraid to speak on issues that might seem to be close to home as well.
Okay, well, but you see, we don't want to belabor the point, you know.
That's fine. Okay. That's fine.
On a lighter note, you guys saw that picture I sent in the chat. With this a board at a restaurant which says it's Valentine's and all that, and this board says, where is it? It's pretty funny. If you bring your girlfriend, 20% off. Bring your wife, 45% off. Bring both of them at the same time, free.
That is going to be a very bold person.
You'll be the entertainment, no? You're going to be the entertainment.
I like that one.
But also, they could go out to the limit and say, if you bring both of them, it's free, because that probably is not going to happen, right? So no one is going to be eating any free food.
No, we have different people now.
When you actually think about it,
it's unlikely.
It's unlikely, and if it does happen,
it won't be that many.
Yes,
it has to be one of those super liberal people who like a wife who's cool with the husband having
a side chick who does fantastic laundry and keep the house spotless.
Oh, how about fantastic bed work, more like.
I don't care about the bed work, especially if she's good with the children and homework.
Trust me, I don't think that's part. That would be part of the girlfriend's remit, actually.
Well, maybe if women had to get more involved, we'd be like, okay, you want a girlfriend? These are the requirements. She must know how to do this, and this, and be free on Tuesday so we can go out on a date. She's a babysitter now.
Women are so territorial, easy.
On a not so light note, I came across this article and I thought it kind of sad, but it was interesting. In Ecuador,
Yes.
The High Court has decriminalized euthanasia following a lawsuit by a terminally ill patient. She has ALS.
Yeah.
It's like multiple
Yeah, yeah.
sclerosis. And she, they slowly lose control of everything. And she says
That's
she has
what's her name? Stephen Hawking.
Yeah. So euthanasia, for those who don't know, is the right to it's suicide, but the right, it's making it sound a little nicer. It basically is when persons are terminally ill, when they're very sick, they have a right to end their lives with the assistance mostly of a medical professional. So in most countries it's illegal because, suicide is still illegal in most countries. And so she took the Ecuadorian country to court, High Court, and they said, okay, it's now legal. So if you are terminally ill, you're in pain, and you want to end your life, you can now do that. So I wonder if they're going to increase in that side of tourism.
It's legal in Canada, actually.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
And I think France.
What was the name of the doctor years ago?
Kevorkian.
Yes,
Dr. Kevorkian,
it was a big thing, and it brought up, like right now, the world is going through so many human rights issues, and what do we have right to as far as our bodies, and that sort of stuff. So I thought that was interesting.
Civilization is really circling the toilet, where people think that they have a right to. No, people think that they have a right to take their life at will.
Well, it's
but the thing is, suicide is a sin.
Well,
That's
to
my point.
us, but remember, in other religions, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my religion. I don't care about the other religions.
Yeah, but you have to understand too that we live in a society where not everyone is practicing your religion.
Exactly.
And we have
but I'm talking about people who practice our religion. I'm not wasting time on
Well,
those other people.
what's our religion
but
to be
remember the law too. Remember the law too has to fashion and accommodate everybody. So
but I still feel that God's laws, the true God's laws, should be paramount, shouldn't they?
When we said those things.
Well, you see, they always say, we in a hot seat, we start with the sports that seem to have been entering politics.
And now we are religion.
And now we are religion.
Another kind of politics.
Hot topic. So, when it comes to religion, we all have our own beliefs in terms of we identify with different things. And even within the Christian denomination, there's so many differences. And so we had the Jamster organization that was here, Christian Faith. Remember when they came? Yeah. And their ideology and what they believe based on the Bible is so totally different to the beliefs of other persons, Christians, on the same Bible. So when it comes to the Bible, it's a very...
Yes. It can be interpreted different ways. And the Bible is a combination of
I don't think there's any
writings from different times as well.
I don't think there's any ambiguity when it comes to suicide. You can't take...
I've never seen a verse in the Bible.
Well, I don't know the verses, but I know it's basically
there
a sin.
are a lot of things that we are
Thou
told
shalt not kill.
sins.
Thou shalt not kill. You'll be killing yourself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then he also tell you sacrifice your firstborn. And
I can't
there were
believe
times
that.
when the kings went out to war.
I can't believe I just
And it says,
quoted
if you have
King James.
if
You
a
shall
man-
not kill.
And other things where it says they shall be put to death.
Yeah.
Just
So
me.
who putting them to death? The dogs and the cats?
Just me. I remember what movie which says that, work out your own salvation with prayer and I think suffocation or something. Something with
Supplication.
supplication. Yes,
yeah.
supplication. Yes.
Suffocation.
And that's why when
Easy.
it came to my mind, I said, probably the lack of sleep, going through. Because I'm back at it again. Yes. So, yes, Jamso, thank you for that. And so I use that point to say, you have to internalize, and it's your relationship with God. And I'm not here to preach or anything, but again, everyone, I try not to delve in those kind of topics because we could get very spicy.
Let's hear what this caller has to say.
Let's hear what the caller has to say.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, what's
Good
up?
morning.
Hey, it's been a while since I've heard your voice. This Journey?
Yes,
Hey, good morning, Journey.
morning. Now, Jamster made a point by saying the true God. Because the thing is, right, when we read the book was written by men. And they gave us God and Satan. Now, one of you says that the book says thou shalt not kill, but yet it says go and sacrifice your son. The question we need to ask ourselves is, who is this God, this deity that the writers place in the book? Is it the creator of life? My thing is, guys, the creator of life is of life everlasting, life eternal. And I think I raised this, and Janster said one time earlier, I think last year, that he's God. You have no right to question what God do with life that he created. This deity in the book is not the creator of life. The deity in the book is a mass murderer. Ooh. Make no mistake of it. If you guys read the book, now the two deities, Satan and God, who done most of the killing in this book? And you're telling me that this creator has the right to take life because he created life, and I'm using he just for those in the back of the room, because again, the creator in the book is gender-based. Guys, this deity is not the creator of life. Remember, I am not the God of death, but of the living. Now, however the Christian community want to take that into context or out of context, it is profound, because the creator of life is of life everlasting. He says, let the dead bury the dead. There's many quotes and texts in this book, but we have to seek the truth. Now, the truth can only come from...
How do you interpret that scripture? Let the dead bury the dead. What does that mean to you? I'm just wondering.
The same way you may ask Jamster, how would I interpret? He is the creator of life, life everlasting, life eternal. You see, we have polarity and duality in this book. But like I said, seek the truth, and the only way you can do that, Jamster, is to know who you are. Because all that is in this book is in your DNA. You have to become the book. And it is in your DNA. When the Creator said to John, close up the book, when he was on the Isle of Patmos, Revelation, read Revelation. Okay. He said to John, close up the book until the appropriated time. The enemy was coming, and the Creator, remember, all of this started in heaven.
Okay, so
we interpret heaven to be.
We are going to... This talk on religion could go on forever, trust me.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
But let me finish up quickly. I'm going to get off right now. Read the book and know that all of this started in heaven. This war, those that were cast out, and they also created a race. And that race is against life. They are against nature. If you look into what events have taken place with humanity, then you will know who are the devil and who is gods and goddesses.
Okay, then.
Thank you guys for hearing me.
Yes, thanks you for your contribution. You see, Jamster, we could have a whole week discussion on religion and viewpoints and everything like that. we have a break. So we're going to take a short break and we'll get back to you guys.
Different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Every day in a busy world, we have to do so much. Bank with CIBC and get that personal touch. Share your ambitions, let us help your dreams come true. At CIBC, you're at the heart of all we do. We're on your side, we're listening, we know the way you feel. CIBC, ambitions made real.
This Valentine's Day, be love and let it shine for all to see. With beautiful, hand-finished gifts from Pandora Jewelry, give them a piece of your heart with styles full of radiance and romance, iconic heartfelt symbols, and lockets of love for every kind of forever. Make every day together a gift. Be love. Shop Pandora Jewelry today.
Noble Jewelers on Port Zante, across from Rams Smoke and Booze.
it's still, the conversations stay spicy even
It's
during the
sweet.
commercial break.
Yes.
So you were saying,
Yeah, as I was saying, we were having the discussion here, and Jamsa, just before just after we took the break, we were talking about, because we are talking about the law, and in the law there has been the debate whether the separation of state and religion, whether it should be a merger of religion and state. In fact, there are so many different religions all around. Even though I would say, if I was to identify myself, I would be Christian, but there are persons who might not.
I don't identify as Christian.
Exactly, and
anymore.
so in
Started there.
in this sense, you have to think, okay, then I can't impose my beliefs on someone else. There are universal considerations. Yes.
caller, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to you guys.
What's
man.
up?
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
So
the lady there. I want to welcome the lady to the island tea, man.
Yes. And she.
I didn't really get her name, but
I'm Chef Rich. I'm Chef Rich.
I love Chef Rich. The name is so
I know,
rich.
right?
Such a wealthy name.
Yeah, Chef Rich. Well, welcome to the island tea, man.
Thank
After
you.
that caller there.
Yeah,
Azard, come on, man.
Yes.
Don't be rushing journey, man.
Yes, we've had so many discussion points this morning. I'm really spicy. We've been talking about the sports. The sports are going to be held in Nevis, and we're talking about the issue of proper planning and so forth. Again, we went into the religion because Chef was reading an article whereby Chef take it.
Yes, euthanasia, the right to
definitely.
terminate. Yeah.
I'm on, right?
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
You are.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely. You got to keep it spicy, and you got to keep the controversial. You got to keep the discussion on the controversial topics. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you can widen your viewership and listenership. Remember, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to widen your base.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want more and more people to listen in on the Island Tea because indeed you'll be having some spicy topics on here.
Let me ask you, because I know I listen to you on when you call into other shows, and I listen to your input. Let me ask you: have you been following as it relates to the sports being held in Nevis, the interschool?
Yeah. Okay. Concerning that, right, I want to let you know, right, as a young man growing up in Nevis, I've participated in that meet. I know they had some big stars back then. I don't know if you remember these names, Big T and Rocky, and then there was a guy named Bruce, and I remember those three athletes very well. When it come down to that 100 meters, Big T and Rocky used to battle it out, and we had a guy from Nevis named Philson Lescott, and a couple other fellas, but we traveled this. I can talk from a little bit from experience, because I've traveled down to St. Kitts many a time to participate in that meet and to represent Charleston Secondary High School under the leadership of Blackett. And when we used to come down there, we stayed with family, and we stayed many a times. We stayed up at the junior high school, and I've slept on cots in that junior high school up there in Bath Stair. I don't remember exactly where the location is, but I know I remember sleeping in that junior high school many nights on cots. So, many a times when we travel down there to participate in that meet. But, the question for me now is, can the logistics we get to put in place to accommodate these people coming over? One of my concerns would be when transporting the athletes back and forth to Nevis, those boats, I don't want to see no overloading of those boats, man, going back and forth.
Yeah.
And the boat ministers on both islands, we need to get them to maybe talk about this and hear what they're doing in preparation to accommodate these people over in Nevis.
Yes.
But indeed, my quick question to you will be, do you anticipate more people will be coming over for this meet than what comes over during Culturama? That's a question I'll put back to you. And, I don't know where that number is going to drop, but I want us to be a little bit more optimistic about this move here, because it will give the athletes and sinkers a chance to experience Nevis. It's just coming over to Nevis is just not to come to this event. You know, these people can be visiting their families that they ain't seen in years. They could venture around in Nevis and visit some of the historical sites. You know, they just need to maybe plan out itineraries and stuff like that. And also, some of them might not want to stay overnight. They can travel back on foot. They just need to get their schedule for the events. You know what I mean? But optimistically, you know, we can pull it off. You know what I mean? And we need not be scared of it. It's just going to give the people from Sinkis a different experience coming over. And also, the logistical side of it, we will see where Nevis stands, if they can handle this and how they're going to be, if they're going to be successful, where any pitfalls may fall. Because remember, Culturama 50 is coming up, and this event now will give the Nevis side some type of outlook as to where they stand to accommodate people coming up in for Culturama 50.
Before
the conversation goes on, man.
Before you go, Carlo, if you have enough credit or time, you know, I concur with the points that you're making. And again, I think that having it in Nevis presents another experience for persons. We've never had it in Nevis before. So I think having it in Nevis creates a different experience. My only concern is the pressure given the short time, because
the short notice.
Trust me, being somebody who is behind the scenes many times in organizing things, imagine organizing a meet like this in such a short time. I could imagine.
So then therefore, right, we just gonna see how good these guys are under pressure. And how they're good.
But remember too, Carla, it's not the minister who's going to be really pressured in the sense of doing the work. It's going to be the game officials. It's going to be the coordinators. It's going to be the organizers. It's going to be the parents.
Everybody's going to be pressured.
Because if
we're going to just see how they are under
and
pressure.
And the teachers as well. Because I had a conversation with a parent, and the parent was telling me that, you know, many persons don't even consider the parents, whether or not the parents would feel comfortable given the short notice and the arrangements to have their children travel, because the children are teenagers.
And will
know?
they be paying for the travel too?
Exactly.
Okay. So let me just make quick more points before I get off. One point that I want to say, like I stated before, right? There may be hopefully will be children, right? That's going to be coming over that might never even have traveled to Nevis before. You know what I mean? So that experience is going to be good for that person or persons. And another thing quickly before I go off is being that we have the Munda track over here, let them feel, you know what I mean, get that experience running on that track. I know a lot of other stuff is not in place, but they have to get this track up to speed, man.
Yeah, also too,
one lad.
Go ahead, I think we should also, another thing that we have to consider too, because again, with the short timing, we have to think about the vendors as well. Remember, sports like this attract benefits for persons who are selling. A lot of persons who usually from St. Kitts, Nevis, because the arrangement would always have been in St. Kitts, they would have already had the practice, whether you're coming from Nevis, whether you're staying in St. Kitts, of setting up. A lot of vendors now, I don't know how it's going to be. We haven't received much information. I mean, the sports is going to be soon. We're in February. And so information needs to be given out to vendors. What are they going to do? Because something like this takes a lot of planning. And if you could hear persons in the sporting arena, persons who even would say that they supported the current administration speaking out against it, you know that pressure is being felt.
Yeah, but, you know, it's going to be all good, man. We're just going to have to try and see how we make up with this. But lastly, one last thing I wanted to say, right? Whenever we have this meet, we know, right, Jamaican athletes have been excelling, right? So one of my recommendations would be, why can't, when we have this meet now, or previously, but now we go forward, why can't we invite Usain Bolt should be invited to this meet, or some of the other Jamaican athletes, just for them to come down and let the athletes them meet some of these stars, man. We need to invite somebody from Jamaica down here. You know, that's my last contribution, man. Just to inspire the athletes and them, you know what I'm saying? All right? That's my only contribution for now, man. I'll let other people call in.
Thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
so much, Carlo. Thank you so much.
I was trying to catch another call, but okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll call it. But yeah, I mean, he makes a good point about this sporting tourism angle. Caller, go right ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Why that last caller sounds like an alarm? The people of St. Kitts and Nevis are well credited for being able to organize events. The OECS had a kind of thing there sometime, and something to do with tourism and like nature tours and that kind of. That was given to Montserrat. But St. Kitts and Nevis, even though we're good at all of that, they were given the one to organize events. But let me take you back a bit. Since 1966, when the royal visit to the Caribbean, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Queen Elizabeth and her husband came here. And the man who organized the whole thing was a man named Tobin Innes. And he was credited by the Queen, he was recognized. It was nothing like what they had in, not even Jamaica or Trinidad. Never mind the Windward Island. She came to the Caribbean along tour, and he was the one who organized. Then they came back sometime in the 80s. I think it was the late Stanley Franks Jr. who did that. I mean, and all these kind of things gone down there. We know we had a disaster with Christina, but that done gone. A lot of regulations were put in place since that. The people who control these vessels.
So you're talking about the vessels. So you're saying that you're saying he's creating alarm with the vessels
as an oversight over what they do when they go and whatnot. So you need to stop that. A lot of things are in place. People are accustomed to be moving from St. Kitts to Nevis, Nevis to St. Kitts, like when you're moving from Sandy Point to Molineux, or Molineux to Sandy Point, or Charlestown to wherever. The boats are there, and they're well regulated. So unless he doesn't, maybe he does not know. But stop alarm. A lot of people move to and from. Maybe you don't know about the Juve man and mass movement over to Nevis and to St. Kitts. When you have Carnival and Culturama.
I think he's probably speaking on the side of caution.
I wanted maybe let me leave that for another time. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, but I'm gonna leave them.
You sure?
I didn't hear the program from the beginning. I usually do, but
well,
I'm cooking.
Well,
so,
caller.
I don't like the alarmist situation that guy trying to create.
You could hear
people know what they're doing. Anyway, I can just finish here now. Have a good day.
Okay, have a good day. Yes. What you think about what he's saying? He's saying that the last caller is creating a situation of alarm when it comes to the boats because we've been traveling back and forth.
I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like he was rather positive.
Yeah.
You know,
I felt that way
in
too.
the end, he was like, we're gonna get it work. We're gonna make it work. I didn't pick up that, but.
Yeah. And I think he's just being cautious and just sending out reminders because, I mean, it's never too much to be too prepared.
No.
To err on the side of caution is always
Although we have a call. Caller, go right ahead. Hey.
I don't think it's so much as being alarmist as being cautionary. Okay, really. I mean, based on what has happened in the past, we should be cautious when it comes to sea travel between St. Kitts and Nevis. And on that note, I don't. The past couple of days have been very rough, and I don't think that the authorities should have allowed the ferries to operate as they did. I've seen some pictures, and to me, yes, there was no accident, but, what does it take to make an accident? And they should have been more careful in terms of what sea conditions people should be traveling through to both islands are, okay, and should not be left up to individual captains and so on to make the decision, okay. So I mean, hopefully we won't have that kind of conditions when they have the meet. But it's something that should be looked at as to who makes the decision as to when the ferries would be allowed to, ferries and the water taxis are allowed to operate between the islands. Should not be left up to individual captains. With regards to the meet itself, you know, it's not, to me, it's not a big deal either way, as long as they can handle the logistics. Or even if they can't, or I shouldn't put it that way, even if it's not, the logistics won't be as easy as when it's down here. There's nothing wrong in experimenting. After all, it's not like you're doing a surgery, life and death. It's not a life and death matter, so to speak, right? Our approach should be like affirmative action. It's nice to be able to give an underdog some special privileges, but there are certain things you don't compromise on when it comes to things like safety. You don't want a pilot to be an affirmative action person or a surgeon, you know, because those are life and death matters.
Mr. McMahon, I think, too, a lot of the concerns, because, you know, a lot of persons in discussion, you know, I think the concerns by many isn't the fact that it's going to be Nevis per se. I think the concern is the lack of time and what seems to be a trend.
Logistics.
A trend, because if you look at it, right, the World Cup, the same minister indicated that the reason why we're not participating in the play matches, not the test matches, but the matches for the actual games during that time, is because of the maintenance, the facilities not being up to scratch or being up to standard. Again, we look here, we see the inter-school championships again, something that's done annually. And if it is, a lot of persons say, if it is that the facilities weren't, you know, up to standard, then earlier communication could have been made and earlier preparation. Persons have said to me that, you know, schools in town who use the field had been asking about whether or not there'll be access to the field, the Kim Collins Stadium, and not given a response. They had to take it upon themselves to make a decision.
Yeah, well,
so I think
those are valid.
I think that is the issue. I think that is the issue that we are facing here. So it seems like just a repeat of what, without any difference, without any improvement, and I think that's the main concern that persons have.
So it's a management issue, essentially.
I think
and communications issue.
I think a lot of people love traveling to Nevis. I think Nevis creates an experience. I think having the games in Nevis.
But the thing we're forgetting, the transportation is one level of logistical challenge. Accommodation is a whole other level. In fact, I feel like that's going to be the biggest sticking point. I don't know what they plan to do about that, if they're going to do it in Nevis. What are they going to set up tents? I mean, what do you do about you know, people using the toilet and stuff? You know, 500 kids.
Boast that everybody in St. Kitts have a relative in Nevis and vice versa. So this is a good test, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it'll go well though. I honestly don't think it's going to go well. If
you don't think it's going to go well?
No, if it comes to that.
That's the problem too, because if you're thinking that we cannot, in fact, handle the logistics involved, then really and truly it should not happen.
I don't think that's what Jamsel just with that. You know, I think again it's a meet. It's been done before. I think what persons are concerned about is the lack of timing, the lack of preparation. You understand? Because we could handle anything. They could handle a meet. I don't think is whether or not Nevis could handle a meet. Yeah,
okay, well, if they can do that, then Azard. But the whole thing, the whole question of timing, I mean, is
Mr. McMahon,
but it should not.
I could bake
that they can pull it off. Then what's the problem?
What I'm saying, Mr. McMahon, is this. Let's take it very simple. There might be bakers out there who could bake an excellent cake, but tell them to bake a cake in 5 minutes.
I like this analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. And that's what I'm saying. That's a management and communication problem. But since they can pull it off, sure, go ahead and do it, right? And deal with the management and communication issues because obviously, from what you said, it's an ongoing problem. That's a separate problem, I think, to what we have now. Most likely the meet is going to go.
In fact, because I was here with the minister and I did the interview, he said when he came to the World Cup that, persons are focusing on the cricket. He's the minister of sports. There are other sports. He has to focus on athletics. He has to focus on other things. So it would be reasonable to think that he would have been or ought to have been focusing on the meet and the inter-school, even then when we had the interview.
I find that minister and his ministries are under a lot of fire of late. I don't know if it's altogether fair or is being picked on, but certainly there are issues in his portfolio that seem to be under a lot of public scrutiny and criticism. And I think something absolutely needs to be done about it. This is just another in a string of issues, and that I think is something that should be looked at.
In fairness,
right?
The minister, Honorable Samuel Duggins, has two ministries. You see that when it came to culture and carnival, we said, good job. We talk about the culture and the carnival and everything like that. We had shows here about the carnival and stuff like that. But then you have to realize too that he has agriculture. Well, a lot of persons depend on when in terms of food security. That is an important ministry. And then when we look at sports, a lot of people like sports, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
That is a real so many sports fans out there. And it's not just one type of sport. It's not just football. It's not just basketball. He doesn't have just one type of sports. He has all sports. So you're gonna cut across.
I understand
sectors.
that, and too, as the fact that sports, culture, and even agriculture, those evoke a lot of passion in most people. Okay?
Yes.
And so a lot of people would have views on those things, as opposed to things like maybe finance or...
We have another caller, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
Thank you for your contribution.
Right.
Caller, go ahead.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in on this sports matter, right? Which essentially, if you drill down, is not really a sports matter. It's beyond the boundary of sports. To me, it's more to incompetence, a lack of proper planning. That to me is at the heart of the matter. Because I believe that wherever the sports are held, they would do well, especially when people are given time to organize and so on. That is the critical element that is missing here. Those types of meets are not organized overnight. It's a lot of planning and coordination and, different resources, human, financial, all kinds of other elements must be brought together. And even then, you have your issues that are going to take place internally that may not necessarily the general public may not see, but they come along with their own issues. It's like, as I had said, cake baker in the world, but if you want a fancy cake for your wedding, you can't come 2 days before to tell me that this is what you want and expect me to deliver the same cake that you would have given me 5 months to prepare for, right? So there are all kinds of resources. The police, where they're going to find the police officers, or it would mean private security to police the perimeters of the different accommodation spaces, the venue,
catering.
All kinds of elements that would have to have been given serious consideration are just thrown up in the air now. And wherever they fall, they fall. I know Kittians and divisions, they are going to give it their best because that is who we are. But this is unnecessary pressure. Everybody knows, the smallest child in St. Kitts knows that the first quarter of any year, that's the sports term. Why try to do major renovations at this time? Help me make sense. Help anybody make sense of it. It is illogical. So the outcome that we have here now, everybody's scampering up and down the place and trying to, pull the loose ends together and so on and so forth. It is really unfair to the organizers and the coordinators and the teachers and the parents and so on and so forth to have to fix what is not really your problem. Right? So let's not skirt the issue. This isn't really about sports per se. Yes, it happens to be the inter-school. But it's not about sports. It is about people not being logical and not planning and not really thinking and being inclusive and collaborating and so on, because I would hate to think that nobody said to the minister, sir, you realize you're going to try to do these renovations in the heart of the sports town? I would hate to think that nobody said that to the minister. You understand what I mean? Because it's clear. To me, this is equivalent of planning a barbecue. And forecast tell you that you're going to have a hurricane. What do you expect to happen again? You're going to get washed out. You're going to have problems. So that is my 2 pence. Let's stop limiting it to sports. This is a chronic issue. I think somebody else said it, that this particular minister and his ministries have been having some serious issues. And to pretend that they're not happening will not fix them. You have to accept where the challenges are, drill down, and fix them. It's not, you just wake up one morning, okay, we'll go Nevis. That is easy to say, That is easy to say. We're going to go Nevis. They have a good track over there. And with all due respect, I'm happy that Nevis is getting its opportunity. I think that they will, try their best to accommodate and so on. But Nevis itself will have its challenges because of the logistics and the resources and so on. And who is going to pay for all of these various accommodations? Has that been worked out? So there are very many more questions and answers in this mix. And that's my contribution.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carla, for your contribution.
Yep, well said.
My views on things will be so different, right? But I tend to see beyond a lot of the layers and look to our core issues as a country that we tend to not look at. And all I'm seeing here is, and some people say, how she get her? I'm seeing the population is too small. And you might ask me, how you get to that conclusion? Because as she said, it's more than sports. It's about proper maintenance, proper planning, and all of that stuff. And as a business person, when you operate in a business that's very small, with small amount of customers, it's very hard to plan. It's very hard to prepare properly. Because so you're in the States and 50,000 people going to pass through that town in the day. You can just bake up a bunch of chicken and have them there and they come and you just go. But when you don't know if you're going to have 10, you're kind of unsure. And said that to say this, in that a lot of these facilities and stuff, they will fall apart. They're not utilized to their full capacity. We don't have enough events going on. Even when the guy spoke about bringing Kim Collins, I was like, that's another element. Usain Bolt, sorry. Yeah, that's another element. Because I'm like, okay, we have a very small population and most of us are not very wealthy. So then if economic activity, again, is not constantly being done at these venues, then the government has to then, one, manage them and find money for their upkeep and all of that. And it can become cumbersome. And I'm here thinking, one man had to think about all these things, But
and then you have to consider the fact that Nevis has even smaller resources and facilities.
Yes.
to pull something
But
like
what
this
if
off.
we had a larger population where we had more events? Because remember, we're looking at government being the main person that hosts events in St. Kitts. But in other countries, you have other...
For that particular meet too, we have a non-government group, which is the Athletic Association, which really governs it and stuff like that. So we are saying, as it relates to the minister and so would have to provide the ministry and so would provide some funding and stuff like that. But there's a whole team of persons within the ministry and within the association that again help to put on meets all the time.
But imagine if they had more, at the end of the day, the renovations are done late. Imagine if that athletic association had money behind them. Imagine if we had more events and private people doing different private sporting meets. Then the funds would be flowing. Then the spaces would be used more regularly. The upkeep would have to be more regular. So, I mean, I'm not trying to excuse...
What if the renovations took place in August, except in or right after we had one meet, they start to do renovations? I think a lot of the issue here, and I get your point what you're saying, I get your point what you're saying, but again, I think what the major concern is the timing.
I understand
renovations, I mean, it's crazy to think that if you had from schools asking you about the field and the stadium and whether or not the stadium would be in use, it meant that persons knew that there was an issue.
I understand. But my view, what I'm trying to get people to see is that I've grown up in this society, right? And our dependence on politics and politicians, it's chronic to me. And coming from a person who was very vocal before and would have gone through all these things, and as a young entrepreneur and stuff, it seems like your hands are tied most of the time because you choose somebody, perhaps they're in over their head, perhaps it's not their fault, we don't know. But what I'm saying is, we as a country, I don't think that the ministry or the athletic association alone should be able to make or break these things for us. I feel like that as a people, we need to organize more stuff. We need to see more independent things. You know, the same argument, separation of state and country and so forth. We need more church and state. In this case, if you look at countries like the States, business is what drives that economy. They're not having to go to a minister all the time and having all that. So I understand that we're smaller.
But remember, one has to look at the responsibility of the minister. And
of course,
the ministry is responsible for these facilities. And in terms of, remember, they get budget. They get budget.
I understand that.
They get monies. I'm not saying the monies is enough or anything, but I think the issue here wasn't the fact or the concern here that was highlighted in the interview. I listened to the interview earlier before I came here. It wasn't the fact, it wasn't said that the issue that we didn't renovate was because we didn't have money at this kind of time, and that's why we do it now. It was said we need to do renovations. As the caller indicated, you know that the sporting thing, the athletics, this is happening time and time again. You hear someone on their own Facebook page or their Snap say that conversations about this had been done since a year ago.
No, I agree with all of that.
All of that. So it comes down on the crux of it, in addition to what you're saying, to planning. We have a caller.
Caller, go ahead.
Yes, Jamster, good morning.
Hey, what's up?
Well, I'm in pain. You know, I haven't been able to listen to about the last 15, 20 minutes of the show, so I hope I'm not going to repeat what anybody has said. But, you know, I can't believe that we are where we are today. I know it's been over a year ago when the track here was identified as basically unsuitable for competition. In fact, there were some events that were held in Nevis because the King Collins Stadium could not adequately host it. And so they went to Nevis. I am sure, I can't remember when exactly the time, that there was a point in time, sometime last year, when I heard the minister say that during this year that the stadium going to be addressed, that the stadia itself going to be under renovation and so on, and that the track itself going to be addressed sometime after that, so like after the season.
I recall that as well.
You remember something like that?
I remember with the interview when we were talking about the cricket.
Right. So this is sometime last year. So why are we here at 11:59 trying to make arrangements for 12 o'clock?
That is the same thing why I am here wondering. What I'm here wondering.
Right. I mean, it is an event, the magnitude of into school, and I have been involved with this thing from its very inception. In fact, in the embryonic stage before. It is. I mean, I don't know if people. Well, I know people don't understand all the things involved and all the nuances that are involved in organizing this meet. The geographic, its location, the logistics, and so on.
And
all the things that have changed over the years, and so on.
And I know you would know this. I mentioned this morning to them about someone had mentioned it to me when we were talking about it, I think a week ago, and they mentioned there's the other problem with the venue, the Malcolm Gishad Stadium being very windy, and they pointed to that being a problem as well for the actual performances.
That's correct.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things.
But even we will have a meet there, and so we know at the Malcolm Gishad Stadium track, it's going to be hardly likely that we're going to get times which would be accepted for world records and whatnot, and so on and so on and so on, because of the conditions. But so be it. We have a winter school to organize. We haven't taken into account, for instance, that in recent times, let's take transport. The average size of a team now is in the region of 70, 80 plus. And even if we bring it down a little smaller, there are a couple of teams, and especially if you're traveling across the waters, mightn't go with as many, etc., etc. You take out the two schools in Nevis, etc., and so on. And you're talking about 400 plus athletes, actual participants alone. You're talking, for a meet that size, you're talking in the region of about 200 associated event officials, most of them which are going to come from St. Kitts. Because even with Gulf Insurance and the other meets in Nevis and so on, most of the officials are from St. Kitts. You have to move the majority of the equipment and all of that and so on. But you have these days, you don't have the boats you had. Now you have the, what you call, these little speedboats which carry in 20
30
people.
20,
yeah. Right? How do you move these people over? So if we're talking in the end of, I'm just going to call a figure, 600 people, then you begin to boat transportation, ground transportation. How do you move them? When they get there at the meet, even just at the meet, where are they going to be housed? Where are they going to be? Where are the call rooms? Where the athletes who are not competing at the particular time going to be? You're not going to have even proper room for spectators and so on. And then when the day is finished, what are you going to do with them? Where are you going to house them? Accommodate them, feed them. So if not, are you going to move them back down the evening? How do you move this number back and forth? And that's just the start of it. What about the sponsors?
Will they be pleased?
What kind
That's a
of
big question.
does the meat does it get a lot of cash? Does it get a lot of kind and whatnot and so on? What is the balance between cash and kind? And therefore, if the sponsors giving, for instance, more kind than cash, can the Nevis Track and Field Association do this? They can find it. Because remember, I hear a lot of people talk about the minister and so on. This meet has nothing to do with the ministry and the minister. This is an event of SKN athletics. This has nothing to do with the minister. The minister's name calling and so on and so on, because in the end, down here we have it at the Kim Collins Stadium, which is a government facility, but this meet is a private meet. It's SKN Athletics, and it's sponsored by TDC.
But
I mean,
the connection with the minister won't be
the middle of next month.
Yeah, the connection with the connection with the minister won't be the fact that had the facilities that is under the ministry been available, then a lot of this all of this would not have to be placed on the association's back to manage.
Yeah. All right. Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying, at this point, we're in February. This is supposed to be the middle of March. I mean, what I'm hearing there is not good news. I'm not going to say. But what I'm hearing is not that's not. How is this going to be done?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing. I listened to another program on another station yesterday, and then they think it's Nevis issue and blah 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 blah, and so on. And as you're rightly saying, it's really, you say it's really not needed. It really shouldn't be, whether it's going to Nevis and so on. The actual reality is nuances that you have underlying this does include a lot of that. It shouldn't. God forbid, it shouldn't. And I've fought against that for many years. But there's going to be a lot of that itself. I am just hearing one message all the time, that probably there's no inter-school this year. But I don't.
But I like the fact that you highlighted the point, though, that is the Athletics Association going to have to be dealing with all of these maneuvery.
That's who's going to have to be doing it.
But again, it's as a result of the ministry not being able to facilitate them at the venue that they are accustomed to. So now the pressure is on them, which I said again, the pressure is on the organizers, The pressure is on the organizers now.
That's right.
Through no fault of their own.
Through no fault of their own.
That's right. Through no fault of their own. And I'm not trying to excuse away anybody. I mean, I have had my own exchanges with the authorities.
But these are things that if you talk about
to maintain the facilities and so on.
If you talk about it, they censor you. They tell you that you have ulterior motives because they're trying to say to you, don't let him talk about these issues. We don't want these issues to be heard.
Yeah, and then as we, even as we talk about that again, to think about what we're saying, so that there are also government and political overtones which are going to come into it. It's a very complex issue. I mean, organizing a meet like this is like conducting a 400-piece orchestra. There's so many moving parts. And I'm afraid everybody concerned, whether you're going to say government, minister, SK Athletics, and so on, I'm saying we've known, and use the royal we've known now for over a year. And we should have done a better job than to be here at this time, having this discussion.
And that's the crux of the matter, They have known, and preparations should have been made from since then to ensure that a smooth transition is made. Even if they are saying that the facility, we won't be able to accommodate you at the facility because we're going to make sure renovations are being done and maintenance is being done. So as we are saying that the facility as it you use isn't available, but we have a year to plan. Get this, guys. We have a year to plan. We're going to Nevis, and we're going to make it smooth. We're going to put in the plans, and so we have a year to get it right. You understand?
Yeah. And in so saying, I want to congratulate your female host. I'm not familiar with her.
I'm Shavrich. Nice to meet you.
Okay, I'll get accustomed. But I think she was making an extremely important point that, so we have this issue in front of us.
Yeah, but let us remember
But we as a people have to go beyond this.
Yeah, let us remember too that the facilities and the grounds.
We do it all the time in every way and so on in this country. We wait till 11:59 and then start making noise.
Yeah.
12 o'clock is a minute away.
Yeah. Carl, before you go, let us be reminded that the grounds and the facilities are public facilities, and also the ministry is involved. So even, I know Chevrich is saying in terms of, persons and the private sector, and so, yes, and we encourage that, but at the end of the day, they are public facilities, and the responsibility, the onus is on the government.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
We do this all the time, and we need to do a better job.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for calling in. Thanks for giving your view on the matter.
I'm thinking about what he said, actually. The more I think about it, that might be the best course of action. Just not have it this year. No one's going to die, Yeah.
But you see, I told you I'm not crazy, I told you I sat here, I had the interview, I've been listening, and when you host shows like this, it forces you, even if to keep abreast of what's going on. Yes.
Oh. Call, go right ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Hey.
And God bless you all.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm listening to the conversation, but if it's an annual event, then we know the event really happened. And therefore, I believe there might have been a communication problem, because the organizers of the event and the ministry that's supposed to be involved, supposed to do this, and everybody should know what the problem is, that at least way back then, some sort of engine should have clicked in to have another venue. And all the logistics should have already been worked out. Because if you say that inter-school competition, I think the last gentleman mentioned it's a private event, but if it's an inter-school event, we only have a few private schools. So then it's still by back down, it's a government event, technically, because all the schools, the majority.
Remember, no, I think you get it mixed up just a bit there. It's a privately held event, but public schools, all the high schools.
All the schools,
yeah. So you have the Sandy Point High School, and the other high schools are public schools.
What I'm saying, technically, because the schools, if the government says, well, you know what, my schools are not participating, you realize what happened. So technically, it's a government event, because the schools belong to the government. And without the government permission, I don't think an event like that could happen, because, hey, no, I would have other things. So what I'm saying is that somewhere along the line, communication would have breakdown and it didn't happen. As you mentioned, it's an annual event.
Yeah.
That's the point. That we should miss.
But based on what we are hearing, and you have persons who are, a lot of persons are frustrated who are inside, but then you can't expect them to talk, because, again, they're trying to work it out. But I have been told, that, they had been, it's not that they didn't know. It's not that questions weren't asked. So,
I understand.
So then, maybe the point that you're making that the whether you want to blame the person should be, because for me, I organize events as well. I have my events, and we do that way in advance to go, whether it's local or overseas, we have to travel, and we do organize, and we get all the persons involved. So that is what I'm saying. Maybe communication broke down, because if it's an annual event, it's going to happen. So why we are now in this position where, as you mentioned, it's like, okay, we did, and then communication with the Nevis end to find out, the logistics. That's what I'm saying, the communication, because this is an annual event.
You said communicate. You said, well, I guess it's some aspect of communication, but then I think it goes further to communication because you could communicate. I could send you a message, and you could see the message and not respond.
So you break down, communication breakdown because there was no response. So there was a break in communication. And for me, what I want us to look at, the most important thing, it's an annual event, and what we are talking about should never happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to leave it there and think about it carefully. If you know, at this time, every time, let's say like elections, every year we have it this time, and then there's, for some other reason, there's like, oh, there's a problem. Then something went wrong. So this is an event, an annual event, and for we now to be talking about certain things that could prevent and not going well, something went wrong because we know it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. So I just want us to find out what you all think about that. I know we have a lot of persons discussing, so I just want to leave it there, but I just wanted to bring that in focus, is that it's an annual event. So what's the problem? Something went wrong.
Of course.
Thank you very much, guys. God bless you all. God bless you.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to remind persons that we have been discussing the sports, and at 9:30 we have a special guest, former ambassador, Dr. Thelma Philip Brown, and she's going to come in again. Remember, we had her earlier this week, and we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about crime and all about, the impact it has on the healthcare.
Grow and Glow. Hortford's Building and Neva Center's 25% off lawn and garden show. Happening now at Hortford's Building and Neva Center's. Every day is a lawn and garden show. Step into the world of lush greenery and vibrant blooms with our Grow and Glow Lawn and Garden Show sales event. Transform your space with 25% off all lawn and garden products. From quality lawn and garden tools and equipment to premium fertilizers, we've got everything you need to make your garden flourish. But hurry, these deals won't last forever. It's time to create the garden of your dreams and let your outdoor space grow and glow. Visit us today at Hortford's Building and Neva Centers and watch your garden grow and glow while supplies last. Visit Hortford's Building and Neva Centers today and let your garden shine with our 25% off Grow and Glow Lawn and Garden Show. Your oasis awaits, so seize the savings now. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Tea time, calling night, noon and morning. Tasty biscuit, just can't resist it. Tea time, calling night, noon and morning. Tasty biscuit, just can't resist it.
You can dunk it, you lick it, you taste it, you spin it, you twist it, you can mix them all together. It don't get any better. You can dunk it, you lick it, you taste it, you spin it, you twist it, you can mix them all together. It don't get any better. Anytime, whatever time. It's tea time. Whatever time. It's tea time. Snack on a delicious tea time biscuit anytime. It's tea time.
Buster, pour it up, need the thirst quencher in my cup. If you have one, hold it up and say, Buster for the colors in my life. Refreshing and nice, and I drink that what we like. Buster, you're full of vibes, living for the color. And I'm black and white, we do what we like. We live to enjoy life. Buster, pour it up, different flavor. Load it up. If you have one, hold it up and say, Buster for the colors in my life.
Well, we must have done something right in our lives to be graced with the presence of Dr. Thelma Philip Brown twice in 1 week. So, and here she is. It's 9:31. And once again, letting our listeners know that Island Tea is being simulcast live on Channel 40. That's on the cable's Ultra TV cable network. So, if you just happen to want to see us, you can catch us on Channel 40, TVC, TV Caribbean. We got Thelma Philip Brown in studio.
Yes, we do. And we welcome Dr. Brown. Welcome again. We're here and we're going to be talking about the effects of crime as a mental health issue. And so, Doctor, when we spoke on Monday, we spoke in the same time we saw the social media lit up as you know, we had another murder on Sunday and an array of bullets. You could see the police putting down the cones at the scene while the video was being streamed live. And so this is a situation where we are facing as a country, as a community, as a society. We hear the videos circulating of the most violent Caribbean countries of 2023, and we see St. Kitts and Nevis as number 2. So crime is definitely an issue.
Yes, and last time we spoke, like I said, we have been up there in terms of our rates for the past 20-something years. Although social media was not as popular then, we didn't see the videos and so forth. And I did just recap a little bit. I spoke about since the early 1990s, when the ministers of health for the whole of the Americas designated it a public health crisis, but it has not been managed as such. I spoke a little bit about adverse childhood experiences and that study that was done, and which Counterpun said is a groundbreaking study that could really change the society, but hasn't. But when I was here last week, 2 things I want to piggyback on. The host then, Michelina, referenced the fact that all these mothers who are traumatized and have these psychological and mental issues, then they have the other children to deal with. And it's not just the mothers, so the whole of that person's all the contacts, all those around them are traumatized, and we are a traumatized society. And someone called in actually and referenced the slavery and the trauma. So I want to highlight 2 things: that trauma is additive, the pain is additive, and that it is generational. And in particular for us, and I wanted to highlight that, the generational nature. And I want, if anyone wants to read, there's a doctor, a psychologist by the name of Dr. Joy DeGruy. I never know how to pronounce the name properly, but it's D-E, capital G-I-U-Y. She's a Guyanese American, and she wrote a book, Post-Traumatic Slave Disorder, PTSD. And that is something worth reading. And I'm now reading another book called My Grandmother's Hands by Ramisa Mekanen, I think. And these are dealing with African American trauma and generational trauma. But our history in terms of slavery is pretty much the same. But particularly in St. Kitts and Nevis, I wanted to highlight that, because if you read the history, it says we have the longest and probably the most bloody, his longest written and probably most bloody documented history. And I'll go back 1623, we were colonized. The 1626, 1623 to 24, Thomas Jefferson's great-great-grandfather was given a land grant, and he had purchased the estate where ran the estate that's now Romney's Manor, and his brother owned a neighboring estate. So in that old road area, they had these estates. And in 1626, the French and the English got together. That's when we had the massacre of the natives. 2,000 natives one day, but the day before they had killed 120. And we all know Bloody Point, because the river ran blood. 1629, the Spanish and the French were at it. Over 100 people were killed. And then you had in the 1800s, the French and the English, they had colluded to get rid of the local people, but they kept fighting. And then you had all these little uprisings and so forth. So it has been a traumatic experience. In fact, the book on Hamilton says, records that the most lashes given to a slave, the record was a estate in Nevis called the Huggins Estate. 295 to a female, 365 to a male.
Wow.
So that is the kind of history we have. And first, we have to acknowledge it, because you can do two things with this kind of pain. You can get what they call bad, you can get a good outcome or bad outcome. You can get people facing their trauma, going through it, overcoming it, with the help of tools within, if they're not within the home, then they're within the community, the churches, the schools, and you can get emerging a very resilient, productive people, settled, and and if you look at us, sometimes we punch even above our weight, and so you can get that, or you can get the bad outcome, where you can get, instead of dealing with the trauma, you get avoidance, denial, and blame. So people don't take responsibility and don't look inside you.
Yes.
And they have to have the tools to do that. So as and they said this first hour, they say it's realizing the impact of trauma, both on individuals and by extension on the whole society. Because we have to have whole, settled human beings to able to harmonize and have good relationships. And if you going back at these slaves and things they did, they sang together, and they spoke together. So you have to have that kind of help to deal with it. Whole human beings who can now look not just inward, but can look outward and have a broader view. So in terms of, so my role is for us to realize that trauma exists, the impact it has on the individual and on the whole society. So one, recognize the signs. And first you must recognize the signs within yourself. So what we start to do is, and that book advice, when something happens, stop, get in tune with your pulse, your blood pressure, what happens in your tummy, get in tune with your own responses. And there are exercises that people can do, including deep breathing, take a walk, do something to just calm down.
Even as you're here speaking and you're talking about it, I'm feeling the calmness and the,
Well, you feel it, the calmness, but like I was telling you, when I had to go to my brother, I was so traumatized. So I had to be learning to take deep breaths, 5 deep breaths, into my nose, out to my mouth, and feeling the oxygen go even down to my toes. Feeling it. That's what you got to do. But that takes practice. But you have to be aware you need to do that. And once you're able to get a settled, non-traumatized, secure self, then you're able to recognize the signs in others and help. And helping first is sometimes just listening and being present, not judging, just being there for them. And so these are some of the things I recognize. And the third R would be resist re-traumas. Responses, have good support system, avenues for responding. And I'm not looking I'm looking at individuals, because we can't wait for government to do everything. So we ourselves within our communities, and we have to go back to within our communities, our schools, our churches, people, we ourselves, every one of us can take charge and look at our own trauma and then be able to assist our neighbor, be our brother's keeper.
My question, because you raised an interesting question, and we had a discussion earlier in the week when we talk about the mothers, because oftentimes, and we're part of a small society, and so when a son is lost, oftentimes, because it's the males, a son is lost, you see the expression on the mother's face, and you see the pain. What do you suggest? What would you suggest for that mother who has now lost a son to crime and violence? To whom?
It's very, very traumatic. And one of the things that we realize we have to do first is not say, don't cry. You know, so we have a tendency to do, don't cry.
Yeah.
The Lord in the vessel, this and that. That's and I've learned from my recent course, that's not the thing to do. Grief, going through that grieving process is natural. And it's natural up to 6 months. If it gets beyond 6 months, then you might need. But allow the person to grieve. So allow them to cry. You can cry with them. PP. So you have to listen with understanding, with empathy, no judgment, or just be present for them. And sometimes you could just go in a room and just be there with them, give them a hug. They need to be able to express. And sometimes part of the grieving process might be anger even at God and questioning. And they said, yes, we are a Christian society, but even that, let that be, because that can be a natural. And we have examples in the Bible of people questioning and asking, questioning God. Just let it be, let that come out. Because if you try to suppress that, then they go inward. They don't deal with it. And then at some point, then they have all these outward behaviors. And I actually have a feeling, there's something called a feeling wheel, which we can Google to help us to get in touch with our emotions. The main emotions, fear, anger, sad, surprise, happy. So we need to be able to get in touch with our emotions and how we react based on
you know, you are here speaking about the issue and about, all of this. And I'm thinking to myself, the prison system, because we talk about rehabilitation, we talk about all of that, there needs to be persons like yourself with the information actually, in discussion with the parents, in discussion with the offender as well. So you could have that sort of healing process. And so you don't have a repeat. Well, if it is something like murder, then, the sentence would likely be a harsh one. And so, I mean, unless you, chances are you're going to be in there for a while. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
so, there needs to be,
able to path to reconnection with it. Yes, and one of the things I hope in airing these things, the program went to the chaplaincy dealing with spiritual health, is that churches can become aware of it. I am available to talk to anyone to strengthen their own. I advise a lot of these pastors, do the CPE course in chaplaincy. Because we need to strengthen both in the hospitals and the hospitals, all these points, and the prisons. But you say that and you may raise the point that if they commit murder, they're there for a long time. But they can still get spiritual healing, and they can still become mentors to people coming inside. Even while they
can speak about their own issue and encourage persons not to go down that way.
Of course, because they could empathize and in a way that you and I can't. And that is the thing. If you deal with your own experiences, and when someone else has it, you're able to sympathize and empathize much better.
I like the fact that you spoke about empathy, because I have a daughter, she just made 5, and one of the things I try to teach her is empathy. And I find that, again, because of the trauma that we have, a lot of us in our society have a problem with empathy. And even when they tell somebody, don't cry, and then, you'll hear them say, it done gone 3 months, she say vex. And this is because I feel that we have not had a time to, and again, going back to slavery, we were looked at as property and not being emotional. Even in the medical industry, they look at black people as not being, feeling pain the same way that other people feel. And in just the mere act of surviving those 400 years of slavery and coming forward, we have had to bury a lot of our humanities just to survive. And so empathy is something I don't see exercised a lot in St. Kitts, and a lot of people are not emotionally intelligent. So you will see them hammering away at somebody, and you who are aware can see, okay, you are breaking down this child, you are doing damage to this person, and they're not aware because they're not emotionally intelligent.
And they themselves had unhealed trauma.
Yes, yes.
So and they're traumatized by that, and they don't want to deal with it. So avoidance is the way of doing it. So and you're re-traumatizing that child.
Yeah.
So it is a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And you talk about, how we were looked at as not only less of human, but can't feel pain. That's why these experiments were done on these women.
Yeah, in gynecology.
In gynecology.
We were the guinea pigs.
Yeah. So, and all that we have, but unfortunately, enough of us don't know our history.
Yes.
And so the thing is to know where we, and it's not to recall it with bitterness or anything, but just to know where you came from, and how you got here.
And I love that you said that too, because there is a debate now, like Kanye West said it, and it's an idea of traumatized and monetized. So there's a part of us that needs to know the history, because if you understand your history, you understand this is why I'm the way I am. This is why my mother is the way she is, right?
Yes.
But then there's a point also, it allows you to understand when you're being used and when you're being triggered.
Yes.
And personally, when these guys die,
yes,
and people are sharing around the pictures of the body as if it's meat on a market, in a market.
Yes.
I find that we do that to ourselves. And again, that's a part of us not recognizing and acknowledging our own humanity and our self-worth. And the images of black people being hung from trees and our bodies being desecrated has become so normal to us that we ourselves do not see anything wrong with it. And that's the point, like, when he spoke about, traumatized to monetize. And so once you know where you come from, you can understand how other things trigger you and how to avoid it.
And there's an important part, and in psychology, they talk about finding yourself and that safe and secure self. In the scriptures, and we said we are Christian nature, it speaks about loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. So you must love yourself, understand who you are, who you are created to be. Because I usually say, I remember a few years ago, I was telling the teachers that I was doing a talk in Washington. And I look, and in thinking about it, I looked at like the universe as a tapestry. So you have a picture, and you have all these different threads coming together to make one whole. Each thread a different color, a different size, but they all fit together. And we have to come to the point of seeing ourselves as a part of that universe, that we have our own unique slot. You can't fill my slot. I can't fill your slot. He can fill your slot, things like that. So we have to be able to see ourselves in a way as important in the Creator's eyes, created for a special purpose that nobody can fill. And if we don't achieve that, then the world is less for it. So, and if you see yourself in that kind of way, then it changes your behavior. It does. changes how you realize, how you relate to other people, relationships, and the harmony that comes from that.
It's a bit, I'm always saying this, I feel like for the week it's controversial, right? But earlier we had a religious discussion, and I know that, again, we speak about the Christian society.
Yes.
But for a lot of blacks globally, what you've been finding, this whole concept of facing our traumas and the self, it's coming about not necessarily from Christianity, but a lot of us are reconnecting with African spiritualities and with just spirituality in general. And even when you spoke about being a part of the one, like there are, like some people said, 12 universal laws in spirituality. This is outside of religion, but it encompasses all religions. And it speaks about the divine oneness. That's the first law, that everything is a part of that oneness. From the one we came, and we make up that one. So when you're saying all this, it's like, it's to me sort of a reclaiming of, as you said, the self, but a reclaiming of knowledge that we didn't have. Yes.
And the connectedness. Now,
Yes.
one of the things in the course I learned, spirituality is multidimensional. It does not have to be because of a particular faith, because your spiritual connectedness doesn't have to be with that monotheistic God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yes.
For some people, I mean, you have Buddhists and Sikhs and Taoists and all these things. For some people, it's the universe. Some people, it's
nature.
plants, it's nature, it's animals. But it is whatever gives you that connectedness. So you're right. And in comforting someone who has a spiritual need, who is in grief, you don't raise God, or you shouldn't raise God at that point, unless something they indicate to you that is whom they look to for connectedness and faith.
Yes.
You have to appreciate that it is not, spirituality is not necessarily about, but it is whatever outside of ourselves that we find that connectedness to.
Yes.
So you're right. You're right. It doesn't have to be, but we are. So for most of us, we say we are mostly a Christian nation, and if you look at us particular, we have such a high number of churches, and it's amazing per capita. And we also have, if you look at, I saw some statistics where people said they're atheists, and they get some statistics for the region. And St. Kitts and Nevis had the lowest rate of people claiming they're atheists. Most of us, in some shape or form, we said that, we recognize God, and that's why I mentioned
in different forms.
But yes, whatever we call it, that being.
Yeah. So definitely more to the discussion, and I know there have been programs put in place before. There have been what we call the Peace Program. There have also now the program called Elevate, where these programs are seeking to, intervention in terms of what we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is the increase in homicides as we face. I know that there was some criticism as it relates to the Peace Program, not a perfect program, but during that time, a lot of persons felt more comfortable, more safe. Yeah, felt safer. And so, bearing with all of those, where do we go now?
Okay, so I agree with you. It probably wasn't perfect, and nothing is perfect. Anything that put in place has to be revised, because I was looking even at our education system, one of the best education system that was put in terms of access. But then you still had a lot of people dropping out. Why? Because we have to, anything you put in place need to be evaluated from time to time and improved upon. And I think what was good about that, it was multidimensional. It was providing jobs, and yes, some people abuse it for providing, because we know that poverty exacerbates all these things. So providing, and Satan's fine work for idle hands to do, as the proverb says. So keeping people occupied, and then also avenues for engaging with others and counseling. And then one was a great part of it, I think, the Explorers Clubs. These are kind of things. Now, I don't know, I'm not aware of what the change is bring. I know that there's one of the council, and I'm not going to call people name. I know one of the advisors, and I've dealt with him in Washington because I've been pushing this ACE thing, spoken with State Department and PAHO and all around. So I know that he's well versed in that, providing to adverse experiences, providing benevolent experiences. And I grew up in Newtown, where adverse experiences were really common, but there were people around who provided benevolent experiences. And so we have to go back to that community approach. We can also do, and there are questionnaires that people can take, and WHO has one, that people can look at their own trauma and try to deal with it. But one of the things we were working on when I was in Washington, and we organized with the Leslie University, they had done during COVID they did some, in collaboration with one of the diaspora groups, they did training for teachers in neurodiverse education to how to recognize ADH and so on. And we had a good reception between St. Kitts and Nevis. About 100 teachers were involved. And I thought, maybe we could do something like that for ACEs and for trauma. So the Les University, the LIFS, the Les University Institute for Trauma Sensitivity, we started, and they organized a program. They designed it for us. Whether we're going to get traction with it, I don't know, but I'm hoping, because that is designed to do what I'm doing, sensitize more people to the idea of trauma. Because when people get more aware and people get to work, then they start to look at themselves, examine themselves, and, and that's the groundwork for us to understand that this is something, a reality. And whatever, and we just can't wait for government to do everything.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we have about 3 minutes before we conclude. Is there any lasting words? I know we could always continue the conversation again too, because another thing that comes to my mind is there are persons out there, they're committing crime, the homicides. How do you get to them? How does this information get to them? Are persons who are likely to commit criminal activity such as homicides? How do we get that information to them before? And so then maybe that's something we could look at another time.
And you all could continue to do it because they listen to the radio too, and the social media. So if you all do more programs about it, and if other people listen and pass it on, and it's a small society, so you should. I mean, like you say, in the prison, people ministry, the church ministry, the churches that go into the prisons, it's just the idea. But yes, go ahead.
Dr.
Brown.
Allen, there's a doctor.
Oh.
She's not here right now.
Oh,
but
okay.
she spoke about a program that they did. I don't remember which high school. It was a very small program where they brought in meditation and yoga to the kids.
Yes.
And everybody was against it. But after they saw some of the most high-risk children start becoming calm and in touch with themselves. And Mr. Sharp had sponsored it back then. And they saw, she's telling you, these children are well-adjusted individuals now. So, again, working on the individual to look at self. Right? And take accountability for self.
That's what yoga does. And it is getting in touch with yourself normally, who you are, your person, everything. And then when you experience these traumas, how do you change? What changes about you? So trying to figure out these triggers. And then, so it's a process for you, but it has to start. It has to start with you. Change must begin. We must make a choice. Choose to change.
Yes. And on that note, I want to say thank you, Dr. Brown. I want to say thank you to everyone who called in and everyone who listened to us today. It has been a wonderful experience. And now, God's willing, if we have life for tomorrow, then the same time, the same place, Island Tea.
Bye.